I got a 1 in CSEC. Do I know what I was graded for? Psh, not a clue. But we'll find out in this video today. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for your support. And in today's video, we're gonna understand how we get our grade in CSEC. Let's get right into it. When a candidate sits an exam, they get a letter grade and a numerical grade. Letter grade meaning that they have 3 profile or skills that they're gonna be grading the candidate on. Now, what are the profiles that the candidate will be graded on? Let's find out. So you have 3 skills that make up the profile. These skills are knowledge and comprehension, use of knowledge, and experimental skill. We're going to start with knowledge and comprehension. What is it that the markers, the examiners look for as it relates to knowledge and comprehension? When we talk about knowledge, let's break it apart now. When we talk about knowledge has to do with basic recall. So that's simply just showing that you have grasped the concept that were taught and the principles. You are aware of these principles. Good. And as it relates to comprehension, you are expected to match ideas, compare, and you're also expected to utilize examples, appropriate examples relating to the content. So that's knowledge and comprehension. Now we move on to use of knowledge. In use of knowledge, there are 4 things that they're expecting you to display. You know, your skills. So these 4 skills that they're expecting you to display would include your application, analysis and interpretation, synthesis, and evaluation. Now, I'm going to break these down for you just a little bit more. When we talk about application, that's simply allowing you to utilize the knowledge that you have to respond to novel situations, case studies, or scenarios. So you're provided with a situation or a scenario, and you're expected now to apply that knowledge that you have to that situation or scenario to solve it, pretty much, right? And you are expected to transform data accurately and appropriately. So that's application. When we talk about analysis and interpretation, you are now looking at relationships. You're going to be looking at limitations and assumptions. You're going to be looking at causal factors. What caused something? How do you know? What can you interpret from this scenario? You know, how can you identify trends and so on? Pretty much. And making necessary calculation. Those are some things that they look for. You know, what could have affected the result? You know, what's the outcome of that? Moving on to synthesis. When we talk about synthesis, you are pretty much combining and making it new again. So you are provided with something, but how can you utilize that to make predictions and solve a problem? You know, putting the pieces of a puzzle together. That's pretty much synthesizing. And then evaluation now, that's where you have your reasoned judgment and you can provide appropriate recommendations then based on value of your ideas. You know, you can look at the implications of some of these information. How is it going to benefit society? So those are some recommendations, and these recommendations would come from sound judgments. Now, of course, not every question will have use of knowledge being graded for, but at least these are the things that they're expecting you to do. And we can look at examples when we go through the past papers. The third skill that they look at is experimental skill. Experimental skill from the SBA point of view is not the same as the examination point of view. So there are 5 experimental skills as it relates to SBA, school-based assessment. But the skill that I'm going to be talking about would not have the entire 5 grading scheme, so to speak. For the experimental skill, there are 3 things that you have to demonstrate to earn the maximum marks. The 3 things that they're looking for would be manipulation and measurement, observation, recording and reporting, and planning and designing. Now, for manipulation and measurement, that simply just talks about the use of techniques and apparatus safely and effectively. So how is it that you can put these things into sequence? How do you demonstrate your understanding of techniques and apparatus and their use? For the observation, recording, and reporting aspect of it, you need to make sure that you make accurate observation, minimizing experimental errors. You need to make sure that you are able to represent the data appropriately. So is it going to be a table? Is it going to be a graph? Is it going to be a drawing or a diagram? So you have to make sure you choose the most appropriate method of data representation. You need to also make sure your calculations are on point. They should be accurate, making sure your units are present. You need to make sure as well that your ideas are explained thoroughly with a degree of accuracy, and your errors shouldn't be so much. It must be able to be at an acceptable degree. So your punctuation, your grammar, your spelling, all of those things need to be on point. And finally, in this aspect, you need to make sure that your scientific terminologies are expressed. Keywords are very essential when explaining certain points or topics, because you don't want to explain something but then you are not utilizing the right words. So those are the things that they look for when we talk about observation, recording, and reporting. As it relates to planning and designing, that simply just speaks to you putting a plan in place as an experimenter. So you are preparing this method, of investigation that can be carried out by somebody else or by you. So you need to make sure you are able to write a proper hypothesis. You should be able to prepare your method that's acceptable, including your variables, your independent variable, your dependent variable, your control, and your controlled variable. So you need to make sure that you express the possible sources of error, what are some precautions while designing this experiment, and of course, appropriate apparatus and materials to be used in this experiment. So those are some things that they will look out for and expect you to demonstrate for this aspect of experimental skill. So 3 things that they look for in experimental skill: that's manipulation and measurement, observation, recording and reporting, as well as planning and designing. Those are the 3 things that they look for under experimental skill. To conclude the profile, remember it's 3 of them. You have use of knowledge, knowledge and comprehension, and experimental skill. And these 3 skills make up the profile for the candidate. And of course, this too has different weighting on each paper. And we will talk about the examination in terms of the timing of the examination and the structure of the paper in our next video. Thanks for watching, guys. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Bye.